Hey guys, and welcome back to Free Plugin Friday. I hope you've had a good week. Today we are going to be going back and looking at some more free plugins, and this one is another banger from Analog Obsession. It is the Analog Obsession Britpressor. Now, Britpressor has been around for a while, but Analog Obsession just updated a bunch of plugins, including Britpressor, to work with the new Macs. Now, I use a Windows machine, so I can't verify how they work, but I think for some people that might be something that's stopping you from getting these plugins, so go check it out. There are details in the list there, so maybe it will work for your computer. But yes, they updated Britpressor and brought out a kind of three different British plugins, I guess, based on the Neve. That's what it means by being British. One we've already covered, which is the Brit Channel. Go check the video out on that. And the other is a pre, which is the pre from the channel with a high and low pass, which we might check out in another video. But today we're going to check out the compressor limiter, the Britpressor. So it's right here. It is fairly simple to use compressor. It doesn't really have a load of options, but it does have enough cool features that kind of, allows you to have a bit more control than you might on an original analog compressor, which is really cool. So we're going to have a look at the features. I've again got it on here right next to you from the Dandelion Express, which is a track coming out soon, still in kind of the mixing and overdubbing phase, but I've got it at the moment on the stereo bus, and we will try it out on a few different sources within this track, because I do think, a compressor might work for a certain thing and might not work for other, and it's interesting just to see what it does in those different sources. But let's just have a look at the features. You have a limiter, and you have a compressor. That's the main two things in this plugin. You've got a limiter here in this top section, which has threshold and a recovery, which is kind of the release time. And then you have a compressor, which has the same threshold, recovery, and also you have makeup gain, which is global, and you have the ratio here. Now, I do think the ratio probably only affects the compressor, because given this is a limiter, limiters are generally 10:1 and higher. That's what makes them limiters, and this only goes up to 6.1. We're having a look at that. Now, the extra features which are really cool that are probably not on the original hardware this is based on is this mix control. Basically, a lot of, especially older analog equipment, did not have a blend control. It wasn't really popular until the kind of New York compression thing came along. But yeah, a mix control is cool. Means that you can use it in parallel, or if you're taking off too many transients and you want to get that back, you can just dial it out just a touch. And then the sidechain section. Now, a lot of bus compressors have sidechains, but they're often high pass sidechains, which are the most useful, especially with kind of modern kicks and modern bass sounds where you don't want that compressor to really pump once that's coming in. But what Analog Obsession do is they add usually extra bands. So this has got a high and mid part of the sidechain, as well as an external sidechain, so you can actually route an external sidechain, which is really cool. So you can do, like sidechain pumping and all kinds of things with this, which is really cool. But having high and mid to me is very useful. For example, say you have a song with a really loud snare, and that's part of the aesthetic of the song. Now, you want to put some compression on it and control it, but you don't need to control that snare anymore. Take a little bit of the mid out of the sidechain, and the snare isn't going to trigger as much. So that allows you to kind of, let it crack through, be as transient as you want, but the compressor is still compressing everything on the bus, which is really cool. And obviously highs would be similar. Now, sometimes I find with the high end with compression, if you've got a lot of high end detail, I really like a lot of high end stuff going on. It can be kind of annoying because it triggers the compressor, so just turning that down. Or the opposite, if you want to control some high end elements, you've got really loud cymbals or something, you can go the other way. So that's the cool thing about using the sidechain. But let's just mess around. Let's play with some of the controls. have a listen. So like I said, it's on the stereo bus at the moment, but we'll go put it on a drum bus, bass, some other things, maybe vocals, just so you can hear what's going on. Okay, so now I've got a loop here for the stereo bus. So we're just going to play it and start going through some of the controls. I think we'll start with the limiter and then the compressor and just see what it does to the stereo bus. So this is first bypass. Okay, let's turn it on and have a look at the limiter. Just get it going. As you can see here, this VU meter is covering the limiter. So you can hear really, it's doing, it's doing old school analog kind of limiting. Nothing like your modern kind of brickball limiter. It's a lot more pumpy than that. At the moment we've got on the automatic to recovery settings. So we'll go through some of the recovery settings. Let's just really pump the limiter, see what it does. Let's turn up the gain a bit. This is obviously way overkill, but it allows us to see how the recovery times really sound. So let's go all the way down to 50. A lot louder, getting a bit of distortion there, you can hear. You're going to get from short release. Let's go through each of the recovery times, I reckon. Go to 200. A bit longer, you can really hear it pulling out a sustain there. Maybe compensate a little bit with the gain. Now next up, as you heard before, we had the A2 one. These are automatic release curves, and this is generally what I use on most bus compressors because it's just a little bit more I don't know, just a little bit more organic, I guess, a little bit less aggressive, more transparent. So this is A1, A2 again, for comparison. So kind of like A2, let's dial it back to actually more of a usable. See, this is the full mix. You might want to go more aggressive on drums or vocals though. So we're just going to take a touch off, just a touch off. Now I do have the high pass filter all the way up. Let me just zero out all of these so you can hear what's going out with no sidechain. And we'll get to the sidechain later, I reckon. So just a little bit of limiter, no sidechain, right? So that's bypass. Gain down one more. And the limiter. Bypass again. Okay, now let's just look at the high pass filter on the sidechain because that's very common. We'll look at the rest of the sidechain later, I reckon. So I usually go around 80 to 100. It depends on how much low end I want to control and how much I want to go through. Let me try 160. And 360. I think 160. That's bypass. And this is kind of the limiter, just taking a little bit off on that stereo bus. So that's a quick look at the limiter side of things. of course, you've really got to set those settings, but that's really what those controls do and that sidechain. So I'm going to pull that sidechain back off, and let's have a look at the compressor. Of course, the compressor is going to be a lot more subtle in its gain reduction, especially at the lower ratios. So we'll take it back. What I think is probably good to do is have a look. We'll just have a listen to the compressor. Now it's all going to sound different at different recovery rates. So maybe we go through each of the recoveries as well. They are quite different. You've got here at 50, 100, 200, 800. So it's a lot faster. Where here you got 100, 400, 800, and 1500. Now I'm not sure how different those automatic release times are either. Let's just pull the compressor in and mess around and have a listen to it. The moment it's at the highest ratio, which is 6 to 1. Let's pull that limiter off. Now you can hear, of course, at 6 to 1 with that really quick recovery time, you're getting a lot of distortion. So maybe we'll go something more natural at 400. Pull it up a little bit. Maybe just check the ratios. Now, of course, it's going to just be a different amount of gain reduction. Depending on the plugin, they can all sound different. Let's see how different it sounds in this. Let's go down to 4 to 1. 3 to 1. A little bit less pumping, obviously. 2 to 1. This is probably where these three are probably where I'd go for a bus compressor. But let's pull some more compression in. Maybe it's 3 to 1 because it's kind of normal. And have a listen to the recovery stages. Again, you really just tune this to the song and the material you're going at. But it's interesting just to have a listen. So the most pumpy, most aggressive, and also going to get a little bit of distortion there. $800. I'll compensate for the gain as we go up. $1,500. Now let's have a listen to the automatic, because for me, that's what is really good in a bus compressor, Seems to work pretty well. It's got automatic 2. Seems to be a little more aggressive in automatic 2, I think. They do sound different. I like auto 1, I think. Now I've kind of looked at this section of controls. I think what I want to do while we're still on the stereo mix is looking at the sidechain, and then I just want to set it up how I would naturally set up a bus compressor to hear kind of, doing what it would be designed for in this instance. And often I do that with a little bit of dry blend as well. So we'll be looking at the mix knob, but I think we'll also go look at the mix knob on drums for like a very, very different application. But first, let's have a look at this sidechain. So I'm going to keep it on those settings, which is, you can really hear that compression. We're getting about 12 dB of compression there. So you should really hear how the sidechain affects it. Let's start off with the high pass filter, which we went through before. So really listen to the kick and the bass and what happens when they come in. I pay attention to the gain reduction here too. You're going to get less, obviously. So you can hear that bass pumps up a little bit more. And 360, probably you're getting 2 or 3 dB less compression. Not a huge amount, but you hear everything drop compression where before it's getting sucked down. It's almost pumping in this kind of reverse envelope, which is a bit too extreme. So I'm going to pull it back to 160, and let's have a look at the mids. Now pay attention to the snare and the vocals here. So we'll go boost them first. See, the snare's almost getting sucked in. Let's go 6. So now we're getting around 16 dB of compression, where before we were sitting at around 12 to 16. You're actually getting way less dynamic range. And when there's silence, you're gonna get this pump come up. Of course, we're over compressing just to show what it's doing. Let's have a look at cutting it. Back to 0. Let's go to -3. And to -4. I mean -6. Now you can hear that the vocals are kind of a lot louder now. Like when there's vocals, it doesn't compress up as much as before. Same with the snare. So let's compare -6 to 6, just as an example for the extremes. Gain compensate. Probably compensate here as well. So every time you're going to do something, you're probably going to need to compensate with various other controls. So mid at 6 and -6. So once you compensated, obviously the difference a little less obvious. Obviously they're less obvious, but it very much is a powerful thing. Now, we're just going to do the same with the high end quickly. I find the high end one probably the least, not useful, but one I'm going to use the least when it comes to a bus compressor. But I think it really depends on what you're doing. If you're mixing and your cymbals are too high, probably fix that on the drum bus, on the drums. But if you're mastering and you get a master and you've got really high cymbals and you want to control them with the bus compression, then the highs are going to become quite powerful. Of course, if you put this on the drum bus or on the overheads, then you can use it there too. So same sound, let's have a look at highs. Boost them up. And you really try and listen to the drum envelope. I'm going to compensate a little bit with volume and threshold. So those ride hits kind of crush everything a little bit. Let's pull it back the other way. Compensate again. So this is now -6. It's a little bit more transparent in the high end at -3. Go back to them. I didn't mention, but all of these controls are steps as well. Makes it a bit easier to set, but means you don't get those increments in between. 0. And I'll compensate again. 3. Now you don't have to compensate, of course, with the threshold. I'm just doing it so you're not just hearing the compression, but it's going to change what compresses, obviously. And +6. Okay, so let's just set it how I would. We're going to use both the limiter and the compressor to try and get a bus compression sound, and then move on to some other elements. dry and wet change the blend a little bit, so I can be a little bit more aggressive and not lose some of those transients. So it seems to be gluing a bit on those settings. I'm actually really liking it here. Now it is pumping a little bit. But that's kind of cool. Unfortunately, you can't change attack times, which, yeah, with attack time control, you might be able to control that. But let's move on. And I just want to have a look at the drum bus, but we're going to use it very differently on the drum bus. Okay, so let's just solo these drums up. And like I said, we're going to really use this mix control to show what you can do on drums. Start with the limiter. Compressor. Let's go. Just really having a listen to set this recovery time right. Let's control some highs. That's got to be 100. So yeah, that attack time is going to be that kind of aggressive thing, and you're not going to be able to dial that out. It's the only problem with, you know, lacking variable attack time. It wouldn't always work. But that's why having a mix control is really cool. Now this wouldn't be my go-to for that crush sound, but it's doing something. It is really affecting that snare, giving it a kind of bit more bloom. Softening and taking it a bit lower. Let's listen to it in the mix. So bypass. Start again. And let's turn it up. Bring the mix down a bit. Bring that to 0. The snare's a bit too far back in the mix now. We can probably maybe take 3. Really brings up that kind of background. Like now I've got it off. That transient's really in your face. Now everything's pulled back a little bit more cemented. That's just the effect of compression though. There is a bit of a kind of low mid thing going on too that I kind of like. Just solo it up again so you can hear. Just listen to the kind of low mid to the kick. I'll start it again. And there's just a little bit of this tone going on. So yeah, that's one use of it on parallel. Now let's just go listen to it on the other two things that everyone wants compression on, and that is the bass and the vocals. So let's do the bass. So I really like to control bass. So let's see what we can do. Yeah, I kind of like it. Let's try 4-1. Makes it stand out a little bit more. A little bit more consistency, right? Now let's drag in some of this limiter just to control, just a touch. Might put on automatic. Just any stray transients, then the limiter should be able to catch. Maybe control some of the high-end noises. Allow a little bit more low-end through, maybe. Yeah, it's standing out a lot better now. Maybe we'll listen to it with drums. Go back to the beginning. Listen on. Sits better with that kick, I reckon. A little bit too compressed, maybe. Let's bring some parallel drive back in, just so it doesn't kind of get that, you know, just lessen some of that pumping effect that compressors do. I actually really like it on bass, to be honest. Bypassed again. Yeah, it just makes it stand out a lot better and kind of glues it in with the drums. Cool. That's enough listening to it on bass. And lastly, vocals, because, you know, compression really needs to go on vocals all the time. So again, I might try using a bit of the limiter as well. I'm not sure. It's probably not really needed. But let's set up the compressor to work with these vocals. I don't know what to say. I'm all over the place when it comes to consistency volume-wise. And I have a shit ton of de-essing on, by the way. I might turn the sends off just so we get the dry vocal. But I can't hold my tongue 'cause it's so cold out. And again, I might try automatic. I think the smoothness of it automatic might work better. I don't know what to say. Oh, that's actually quite nice. But I can't hold my tongue 'cause it's and that's doing 12 to 16 dB of compression there. Right next to you. Fairly clean. It's got character. I don't know what to say. There's a little bit of that attack, but the attack's kind of alright. I can't hold my tongue. So I might back it off a little bit. Maybe we go 2-1. Let's try 2-1. It's a lot more gentle. I don't know what to say. Now let's pull the highs up in the side chain, just because of how essy it is, even with all the DS's. Right next to you. Let's see the bypass. I don't know what
Okay,
to
so let's
say,
fix the gain for that.
but I can't hold my tongue 'cause it's so cold out in the wilderness. So you can see the words are fairly uneven. I don't know what to
Certain
say,
sounds can be a bit aggressive. I
but
mean,
I
you can hear when I'm
can't
talking,
hold
my
my
S's are just,
tongue
it's
'cause
just
it's
what my
so
mouth does. It's really
cold
annoying.
here right next
Let's
to
put it on.
you. I don't know what to say.
Still sounds pretty natural to
But
my
I
ear.
can't hold my tongue 'cause it's
But we
so
could probably
cold
dial this
out
back
in the
if you're finding it's
wilderness.
not. That's why I love having mixed controls. It just allows you to get some of that natural transient
I
in.
don't know what to say, but I can't hold my tongue 'cause it's so cold.
Okay, with the sends,
here right next to you.
which are quite loud and up front.
I don't know what to say, but I can't hold my tongue 'cause it's so cold out in the wilderness.
So we're going to bypass it now. Really try and pay attention to
I don't know
how consistent the words are.
but I can't hold my tongue 'cause it's so cold here right next to you.
And we put it back on, and I'm going to go back.
I don't know what to say, but I can't hold my tongue 'cause it's so cold here right next to you.
Maybe I'll try some limited as well,
I don't know what to say,
just to catch it
but
up.
I can't hold my tongue 'cause it's so cold out in the wilderness.
That sounds pretty smooth to me. Let's listen to it in the mix.
I don't know what to say, but I can't hold my tongue 'cause it's so cold here right next to you. I don't know what to say, but I can't hold my tongue 'cause it's so cold out in the wilderness.
So that has been Analog Obsession Britpressor. Now, of course, we could put it on a whole bunch of other sources, but you'll be here all day, so I reckon go check it out. As with all Analog Obsession plugins, you can subscribe to the Patreon. There's different price tiers, but you don't have to. You can still go in and download the plugins for free. I have a video on how to download and install them. It's a fairly quick video because a lot of people were kind of struggling figuring out the website. It's a little bit confusing being based through Patreon. But go check it out. Try it out for yourself. I personally think it is quite nice. It doesn't sound like the usual compressors I use. I mean, it's not too different, but it doesn't really have that aggressive nature of like a FET compressor, and it doesn't really have that super warmth of the L8-2A style, which are my main go-tos. It has its own thing going on, and I really actually am enjoying it. I think it's not super upfront in its character, and so on first listen, you might go, oh, well, you know, it doesn't sound as fun. It's still got character. It's still got this interesting thing to it. Like I said, there's something in the low mids, something in the mids I like going on. The lack of attack control, kind of that set attack, could be problematic for some sources, but like on vocals there, usually I always chain multiple compressors, and although I did put a little bit of the limiter side of it, you really, you know, with 12 dB compression, it really improved the vocals to my ear without too many artifacts, while staying fairly smooth, fairly consistent. And on the bus, it kind of did really do what a bus compressor does without imprinting too much of its own sound on it. I actually thought it was really cool in kind of controlling the mix, especially assuming this is kind of almost mixed but not finished, and I tend to mix with a bus compressor on just to kind of glue everything together, put it together. I thought it was really good at that. So again, go check it out. Go check out my other Analog Obsession plugins. Please like this video and give it a bit of a comment. I'd like to know what you think about the video and the plugin, and I will see you next time.